Hello class, this week we are looking at chapter 10.3, the birth of the Republican Party. Now, the Republican Party is still one of the major parties in the US today. We have two objectives for this chapter. The first is identify the political parties that emerge as the North and the South forge new political alliances. The second is explain the reasons that led voters to align with certain parties and why Buchanan won the election. So in 1852, this is looking at our first objective, we have a man named Scott becomes the leader of the Whig Party. But at this point, the Whig Party is starting to split because Northerners and Southerners are disagreeing over the slave issue. Scott is a Northerner, and he wins support of the Whig Party because he is a Northerner. The Southerners, their response is to not vote for the Whig Party. They do not want to support someone who is a Northerner and who supports who is against the Fugitive Slave Act. What ends up happening is that we have Franklin Pierce. He becomes the president. He is the leader of the Democratic Party. This marks sort of the end or the decline of the Whig Party. Now remember, the Whig Party formed during Jackson's time as a response to the Democratic Republican Party. 2 years later, we have the Kansas and Nebraska Act. Now we talked about the Kansas and Nebraska Act last week. This is the split of the Kansas Territory in the middle. This act also leads to the downfall of the Whig Party. Now the reason this act leads to the downfall is again mostly because of that issue of slavery. So we have Northern Whigs siding against slavery and Southern Whigs, they're siding for slavery. The fact that there is a lot of violence that happens because of this also sort of leads to the downfall. By 1856, we have the Whig Party is completely separated over the issue of slavery. And they end up forming different parties. So we have different alliances starting to happen. Now the first party that we'll discuss is called the Know-Nothing Party. Now the Know-Nothing Party, they stressed nativism. Now what nativism means is it's focusing on people who are Native Americans, who are not those European immigrants coming to America for new job opportunities. Now this group, they sort of saw themselves as the pure American. They actually had a secret group called this, related to the Star-Spangled Banner. And this secret group, they would have sort of these like secret handshakes and secret meetings where they would meet and sort of discuss this idea of what it means to be a pure American. Oftentimes when they are asked what went on at these meetings, they say, "I know nothing," and therefore they formed the Know-Nothing Party. Many people who were in this party that were the middle class and were Protestant. Okay, of course we can assume they were also white. Eventually this party does not last. So we do see that this party also splits over the issue of slavery. So in the North, they end up going to what is now the Republican Party. And in the South, they're trying to find different alternatives to the Democratic Party. Okay, so even though the Know-Nothing Party is important to the election of 1856, they aren't really a lasting party. The second party that we're looking at is the Free Soil Party. Now the Free Soil Party is against slavery. Their leader was Martin Van Buren. Now if you don't remember who Martin Van Buren is, he was Andrew Jackson's vice president. So Martin Van Buren, he's still around, and now he is sort of one of the leaders of the Free Soil Party. Now the Free Soil Party was mostly Northerners. Some of these Northerners were in the party for the abolition of slavery. They wanted to get rid of slavery completely. But other Northerners, and many of the Northerners in this party, they didn't necessarily care about getting rid of slavery, but they didn't want slavery to spread to the North. So in the past, we've talked about how people in the North were worried that if slavery spread to the North, that it would lead to sort of an economic crisis for all those new immigrants that are coming into the country. Okay? This party consists of a lot of those Northerners as well. The third party that starts to develop is called the Republican Party. Now, the Republican Party develops a little bit after these other two parties because they end up actually gaining people who are Democrats, Free Soilers, and Whigs. So they're taking people from the Whig Party, the Free Soil Party, and the Democrats. Their one main purpose was to unite against slavery. Okay. Now the founder of this party is called Horace Greeley. He's one of the founders. So he's going to become more important as we go on. This party also opposed the Kansas-Nebraska Act. They believed that the Kansas-Nebraska Act was going to spread the issue of slavery into other states. It also is known for being a kind of diverse group of people. This comes to our second objective. Basically, we're going to be discussing the election of 1856. So a year before the election, we're starting to get our leaders in place of who's going to run for this election. Now the main leaders is going to be the Democrats versus the Republicans. Now remember, the Democrats formed during Andrew Jackson's time. The Republicans, they are a new party, okay? Republicans had a little bit of a rocky start. So they lack a lot of national organization. That means that they don't have many campaigns going on throughout the U.S. Part of that's probably due to money. But when Bleeding Kansas happens, that is both the elections in Kansas, where Missourians go into Kansas and vote for slavery, as well as the violence that follows, the Republicans are going to use this event as a way to challenge the Democrats. As they start to develop a campaign for the election, we have John C. Fremont, that's this man right here. He ends up becoming the leader of the Republican Party. The Know-Nothings, they end up splitting. So the Know-Nothings, half of them end up joining the Republican Party and support Freeman, and half of them have their own leader, Fillmore, Millard Fillmore. Millard Fillmore is depicted right here. Okay. The Whigs, during this election, they are no longer a party, so they don't even have a leader. The Democrats, they end up electing Buchanan. This is Buchanan down here. He is the only candidate that is able to balance the North and South demands. So basically, this man was able to sort of appeal to both Northerners and Southerners. And therefore, when the election happens, we see that Buchanan, he is the one who wins this election. The reason that this election, the election of 1856, is important is for three reasons. The first is that we see the Democrats win just because they chose a candidate who could balance between Northern and Southern demands. The second thing is that the Know-Nothings, they were already failing as a party. They already sort of become absolute after this election. The third thing is that the Republicans, they gained most of the North vote. So we start to see Republicans, they are becoming the party of choice in the North. These are sort of the three reasons. Now your two questions for this chapter. I'm actually going to ask you these questions, the objective questions. So come into class or comment below these two sort of objective questions.